The first thing Dr. Khaarn noticed about the human was that he bled far too easily. The second was that he didn't seem to care. The examination room aboard the medical cruiser Rellith 4 was sterile, dimly lit, and humming with the low pulse of biomonitors embedded in the walls. Khaarn's long limbs moved with practiced grace as he adjusted the scanner over the human's chest. A faint red smear led from the man's elbow to his waist, where his overshirt had been hastily removed and now lay in a crumpled heap on the floor. Blood was still trickling down his arm. Khaarn tilted his head. "You are leaking," he said. The human, a broad-shouldered man in his 30s with short dark hair and a few days' worth of stubble, grunted. "Yeah, I noticed." "You should not be upright," Khaarn said, scanning the arm again. "There is obvious trauma. A contusion near the humeral shaft, possible fracture. You are compromising vascular integrity by moving." "I had to get my crew out of the shuttle bay," the human said. "Systems were failing." "I'm not going to sit around waiting for someone else to do it." "Your name?" Khaarn asked while his fingers danced over the diagnostic interface. Vaylen Jacker." "You should be unconscious, Vaylen Jacker," Khaarn said, perplexed. The monitor chimed. "You have a compound fracture. Bone integrity is compromised and the surrounding tissue is torn. Your pain response should be overwhelming by now." Vaylen blinked at him. "I've had worse." Khaarn stared. "That is biologically implausible." Vaylen met his gaze. "You ever been tossed down a shaft by a faulty grav stabilizer, clipped by your own drone on the way down and landed in a pile of fractured durasteel? Because that happened last year." Khaarn opened a drawer, retrieving a stabilizing brace and a sterile wrap. "Were you treated?" "Eventually." "Took a few days to get to the nearest med station." Khaarn paused. "You remained untreated for days." Vaylen winced as the brace was tightened. "Didn't have much choice. We were stranded on a Lowe's 5. Hostile climate, no comms, had to hike out. Still have shrapnel in my left calf." Khaarn's neural clusters fired rapidly, attempting to recontextualize his understanding of human pain tolerance. He applied the wrap slowly. "You should lie down." "We must immobilize the arm." "I've got to get back to the hangar," Vaylen said, struggling to his feet. Khaarn stepped in front of him. "You will not." Vaylen narrowed his eyes. "We've got a salvage team returning in under an hour. If the docking clamps aren't fixed, they'll slam into the cruiser. I'm the only engineer on board who knows how to realign the portside servos. You have a broken arm, and I've still got another one." Khaarn's eye ridges flattened. "This is not admirable. It is medically irresponsible." "I'm not trying to impress anyone, Doc," Vaylen said, grabbing his overshirt with his good hand. "I'm just trying to keep people alive." Khaarn followed him to the door, baffled. "Your pain receptors are active. The scan confirms this. You are experiencing severe discomfort." "Oh yeah," Vaylen said over his shoulder. "Hurts like hell." Khaarn stood motionless in the doorway long after Vaylen had gone, the blood trail on the floor a stark reminder that something about the human threshold for pain or their willingness to ignore it did not fit within any of his training. He tapped his comm. "This is Dr. Khaarn. Begin a full psychological and physiological case study on the human Vaylen Jacker. I believe we are missing something critical." The next morning, Khaarn found Vaylen in the maintenance bay, elbow deep in a fried junction box, with his right arm strapped to his torso by the brace. "You disobeyed medical orders," Khaarn said. "Good morning to you too," Vaylen muttered, tightening a bolt with his left hand. "Clamps are working again. You are aggravating the fracture site. Didn't use that arm, you moved." I breathed too. "Want to yell at me for that?" Khaarn's fingers twitched. "You are frustrating." Vaylen grinned through gritted teeth. "You should see me when I'm well rested." Khaarn examined the arm again, scanning without asking. The swelling had increased. Internal bleeding was localized but spreading. "You are not healing properly," Khaarn said. "You need surgical intervention, now." Vaylen lowered his head, exhaled slowly, and finally nodded. "All right, let's do it." In the surgical pod, Khaarn worked silently. Vaylen remained conscious, though sedated, watching the ceiling with a faint twitch at the corner of his mouth. Khaarn had seen patients scream, faint, and beg for even the slightest relief under lesser injuries. Vaylen's biochemistry confirmed a high pain response. He simply chose not to react. After the procedure, Khaarn sat by the recovery bed reviewing the data. Vaylen stirred. "How bad?" he asked, his voice groggy. "Clean fracture. Reinforced with biocement. You must avoid strain for 6 weeks." Vaylen groaned. 6 weeks, minimum. Can I walk?" "Yes." "But no weight bearing on that arm." "I'll take it." Khaarn leaned back. "Why do you ignore pain?" Vaylen blinked at him. "I don't ignore it, I just don't let it stop me." "That is illogical. Maybe, but it's how we're built. Your species evolved without natural shielding. You are soft." "Fragile, thanks, and yet you persist." Vaylen's eyes closed. "We've had to." Khaarn stood thoughtful. "You will remain in observation for 72 hours. "No arguments here," Vaylen murmured. 3 days passed. Vaylen healed slowly, complaining only when the food trays became repetitive. Khaarn observed him constantly, compiling notes, running comparative pain response simulations from other species. By day 5, Vaylen was back on his feet, arm cradled in a sling, helping a junior technician recalibrate a coolant array. Khaarn approached, arms folded. "You are not cleared for work." "She's new," Vaylen said, gesturing to the technician. "Doesn't know the wiring yet." "I'm just pointing things out." "You are not pointing, you are lifting." "Barely." Khaarn's eyes narrowed. "Your behavior is not sustainable. You will injure yourself again." "Maybe," Vaylen said, "but we've got a mission tomorrow." "No, we do not. You are grounded." Vaylen looked at him. "You don't get it, Doc. We've got a comm satellite down on Larthus 9. If we don't fix it, we lose contact with 3 colonies. You think I'm going to sit out because I'm a little broken?" Khaarn's voice rose. "Yes, that is the correct response." Vaylen stepped closer. "I've seen people die because one part failed. I grew up on a station where if the oxygen filter cracked, we were done. We don't get the luxury of waiting to heal. We fix, we move, we survive." Khaarn was silent a long time. "You will take a technician with you. You will not lift. You will not climb. You will not fight." "Deal," Vaylen said. The mission was a success. Vaylen directed from the ground, barking instructions while a junior tech scaled a scaffold. When a support beam gave way, Vaylen lunged forward to catch the falling panel with his uninjured hand. It clipped his shoulder and sent him stumbling back. Khaarn rushed in moments later, scanning furiously. "No new damage," he muttered in disbelief. "You should be incapacitated." Vaylen was pale, sweat beading down his temple. "I'd rather not do that again." "You are a lunatic," Khaarn said. Vaylen grinned weakly. "You're not wrong." Later that night, Khaarn updated his report. Subject demonstrates an alarming capacity to endure and operate under severe physical duress. Pain responses remain biologically typical but behaviorally disregarded. Conclusion: the human willpower is not to be underestimated. Further study required. He paused, then added, "Also, recommend adjusting protocol. Do not argue with injured humans. It is inefficient." 3 days after the Larthus 9 mission, the ship's environmental systems hiccuped. Not a full failure, just a flicker in the oxygen scrubbers, a sudden spike in humidity, and a faint but unmistakable whiff of ozone that turned the crew's heads mid-meal. Khaarn noticed it first during his rounds. His second heart fluttered, a reflexive response to atmospheric variance. He tapped into the diagnostics. One of the lower deck filtration nodes was pulling double load without failover. Down in the lower decks, Vaylen Jacker was already wedged between a pair of dehumidifiers, one arm still in a sling, the other holding a flashlight in his teeth. His legs were tangled in cabling, and he was arguing with the system interface panel as though it had personally offended him. "You're not even supposed to route through this block unless the tertiary relays are fried," which they are not. "So what are you doing, you humming little liar? Your presence here is unauthorized," Khaarn said, stepping over a bundle of coiled fiber lines. "You're welcome," Vaylen replied, not looking up. "You are not cleared for physical labor." Have you read the limitations in your post-op file? I've read a lot of things. None of them fix the humidity. You are not cleared, Khaarn repeated, lowering his tone. I'm just tracing the root failure, no lifting, no climbing. No heroic stunts, I promise. Vaylen spat the flashlight into his hand and turned his head. Also, I'm not entirely sure this panel's not lying to me. Khaarn crouched beside him, scanning the panel. It is not lying. It is reporting redirected flow from junctions D17 through D23. That should not be occurring. Exactly, I think someone rerouted manually. Probably during the last hull breach drill, they never reset the defaults. You are speculating, I'm troubleshooting. Khaarn adjusted the scanner, then continue, but do not move your right arm. I will monitor and assist, Vaylen grinned. Didn't think you were the crawlspace type. I am not, but I suspect if I do not intervene, you will dislocate something. They worked in silence for a while. Vaylen's breath occasionally hitched when he twisted too far, but he kept going, fingers dancing over the wiring like he was playing an invisible instrument. Khaarn watched his concentration. The human was flushed, a sheen of sweat collecting at his brow, but he didn't slow. Your core temperature is elevated, Khaarn noted, because it's 100 degrees in here and I'm wrapped in cabling like a Christmas roast. You are exhibiting signs of exertion. I'm fixing the air, Doc. Everyone's exerting. Khaarn adjusted his position, awkwardly bracing one of the brackets to give Vaylen better access. Does your species always maintain this level of self-sacrifice? Not self-sacrifice, just priorities. You want an environment to breathe in or a well-rested engineer with a perfect arm? I would prefer both. Unrealistic. With a final grunt, Vaylen reconnected a junction module. The ozone tang faded almost immediately. There, he said. Give it 2 minutes and the scrubbers will equalize. Khaarn scanned the lines. You are correct. Flow is stabilizing. Tell that to my shoulder. You are in pain again. I'm always in pain. That's just background noise now. That is not an acceptable baseline. Vaylen sat up slowly, leaning against the bulkhead. Then you're going to hate humanity's entire history. Khaarn reached into his med kit and offered a dermal patch. This will not cure you. But it will dull the inflammation. Vaylen eyed it. You're not going to sedate me again, are you? No, it is localized, minimal side effects. He took it and pressed it to his collarbone, sighing. All right. Feels like someone opened a window in my nervous system. You should return to the recovery bay. Later, I want to check the filtration logs first. You are incapable of delegation. You say that like it's a flaw. It is. 2 hours later, the captain ordered a systems audit. Something was draining auxiliary power in short, erratic pulses. It wasn't dangerous yet, but it was enough to knock out several non-critical modules, including parts of the hydroponics lab. Khaarn found Vaylen half asleep on a bench just outside the lab doors. His uniform jacket was off, sleeves rolled, sling still in place but twisted sideways. A data pad was balanced on his knee, still active. You should be in bed. I am in bed. If you define bed as flat surface with no immediate threats, you are not amusing. Neither is a power drain in a food supply module. I trace the pulses. They're coming from the old research wing. Maintenance logs say that section hasn't been accessed in over a year. Khaarn frowned. That level is sealed. Only command has clearance. Yeah, but someone forgot to disconnect the internal charging ports. They're siphoning current every time the primary grid idles. You are not suggesting we go down there now? I am. Because the pulses are getting stronger. Against Khaarn's better judgment, they descended 4 decks to the shuttered research wing. The lighting was dim, flickering with irregular stutters. Vaylen walked slowly, left hand on the railing, right arm pinned to his side by the sling. Khaarn stayed close, monitoring his vitals. You are dehydrated, he said. I'm also curious. Curiosity wins. The corridor narrowed. Dust coated the floor. At the end, a terminal blinked softly, drawing from the grid with each flicker. Vaylen approached it, crouched carefully, and began scanning. Looks like an old biodata cache. Someone was running shadow logs, medical records, crew scans, even behavioral profiles, all encrypted. This was not standard protocol. Nope, which means someone was hiding something. Khaarn stepped forward. Do not open it. The encryption could trigger a purge. I'm not trying to open it, I'm trying to isolate it. Shut down the drain without wiping the logs. You are doing this one-handed. Yeah, and you're doing nothing-handed. Teamwork. Khaarn's mandibles twitched. You are insufferable, thanks. After several tense minutes, Vaylen isolated the power link. He rerouted the draw to a dummy node and the pulses stopped. That's it. No more drain. Your pulse is elevated. You are sweating again. You try typing sideways. It's harder than it looks. Khaarn supported him as he stood. You are nearing your physical limit, Vaylen nodded. Probably, but I had to make sure whatever this was didn't take out our food supply. You are reckless. I'm responsible. Khaarn stared at him. Vaylen's breathing was shallow. His injured arm trembled slightly, not from movement but from strain. Do not move again, Khaarn said. I will call for a stretcher. No need. You cannot. And I will not permit further damage. They returned to the med bay with Vaylen on a stretcher, still muttering instructions to the tech carrying him. By the next morning, he was sedated. Khaarn stood by the observation window, watching as the monitors stabilized. Internal bruising had increased. The inflammation around the surgical site had worsened. He had pushed himself past safe limits again. Khaarn updated the medical log. The human continues to ignore physiological warning signs. Despite explicit instruction, he prioritizes function over recovery. This is not bravery. It is compulsion rooted in cultural expectation. Further analysis required to determine the neurological and sociological basis for such behavior. He paused, then added, also, recommend all high-priority systems be given redundant access nodes. Human engineers will not accept inaccessibility as a deterrent. It only encourages them. The mess hall smelled faintly of burnt protein paste and disinfectant. It was not the most appetizing combination, but Vaylen Jacker had eaten worse. He sat at the far table, his right arm still slung, left hand balancing a tray that held something gray and steaming. He poked at it with a fork, squinting like it might try to fight back. Dr. Khaarn watched him from the doorway, arms folded, not quite entering. You're not cleared for solid food. Vaylen looked up. Then it's a good thing this doesn't qualify. You are supposed to be resting in medbay. Technically, I'm sitting. Not much difference in posture. You were prescribed nutritional IVs and monitored sleep. I was also prescribed boredom. I chose the least irritating option. Khaarn walked over, noting the way Vaylen shifted to make room without thinking. The sling was tighter than it had been earlier. A compression wrap showed just beneath the collar. Khaarn's ocular ridge twitched with disapproval. You adjusted your own brace. It was slipping. You are not a physician. I don't need to know when something's digging into bone. Khaarn sat. You are intentionally difficult. I grew up in a station where the chief medic was also the cook. You learned to improvise. I reviewed your scans again. The bone is mending, but there is microfracturing along the upper radius. Your nutrition levels are depleted. Then I'm doing the right thing by eating this, whatever it is. It is not real meat. I assumed that when it started fizzing. Across the hall, a group of Afari crew were engaged in a heated game of magnetic dice, their laughter high-pitched and shrill. One of them glanced over at Vaylen, whispered something, and the rest burst into giggles. Vaylen didn't react. They believe you are defective, Khaarn said. Technically correct. They do not understand why you are still ambulatory, neither do I some days. You are amused by their confusion. I'm used to it. They think you are reckless. That's fair. I think you are reckless. Also fair. Khaarn leaned forward. Then why do you persist in behaving this way? Vaylen set the fork down. Because if I don't, no one else will. I'm not trying to be a hero, Doc. I'm just trying to keep things running. There are others capable of repair. Sure, but they hesitate, they second-guess, they wait for clearance. I don't have time for that. You push until you fall apart. I push until the job's done. Khaarn said nothing for a moment. Then, there is going to be a systems recalibration in 3 hours. You will not attend. Wasn't planning to. You will remain in your quarters. I said I wasn't planning to. Your definition of planning is unreliable. Later that day, Vaylen did not attend the recalibration. He stayed in his cabin, lights dimmed, boots off, posture slouched into the wall like his spine had given up. He stared at the ceiling for a long time, breathing through tight pain in his shoulder. The brace itched. His wrist throbbed. He had not told Khaarn about the occasional tingling in his fingers. He didn't move when the door chimed. It opened anyway. You did not respond, Khaarn said, stepping inside. Didn't feel like talking. You are not sleeping, trying, you are hiding symptoms. Vaylen didn't argue. Khaarn crossed the room, scanner in hand, and began a full sweep. The readings were worse. Circulation was diminished in the lower arm, nerve compression, subtle inflammation near the joint. You should have reported this. I didn't want another sedative. You would rather risk permanent nerve damage. I was hoping it'd pass. Khaarn's voice lowered. This is not a game, Vaylen. I know that. You could lose function entirely. I know that too. Then why? Vaylen closed his eyes. Because I've had worse. That is not an answer. It's the only one I have. Khaarn applied a new stabilizer, wrapping it slowly, carefully. You will not move this arm for the next 48 hours, not even during sleep. I am authorizing a mobility sleeve. Sounds fancy. It is not. It is restrictive. You will hate it. Looking forward to it. Khaarn hesitated before speaking again. When I first met you, I assumed you were careless. Now I understand you are simply conditioned to endure. Not sure if that's better or worse. It is merely different. A day later, Vaylen did not show up on any of the internal sensors. His room was empty. His vitals were still being transmitted, but the location tag had been disconnected. Khaarn located him by triangulating the signal manually. He found him in the forward observation dome, seated cross-legged on the floor, right arm pinned beneath the sleeve, left hand holding a diagnostic tablet. The stars reflected off the glass in sharp patterns, throwing lines across his face. You bypassed the locks. I needed quiet. You could have asked for access. I figured you'd say no, correct. I didn't want to argue. You are still arguing. Vaylen tilted the tablet slightly. I was checking the long-range comms. There was a packet from the outer colonies. One of the stations sent a report that their filtration system is failing. That is not your responsibility. No, but I designed the backup protocols. I know the system better than the crew working it. You are not going there. I didn't say I was. You are thinking about it. I'm always thinking about it. Khaarn sat beside him. You are addicted to involvement. I'm addicted to fixing what's broken. There is a difference. You're right. One gets people killed, the other keeps them alive. You equate inaction with failure. Because for us it usually is. The silence between them stretched. Outside, a comet passed, tail curling like a ribbon of fire. You are healing, Khaarn said finally, very slowly. I can live with slow, you must. Vaylen turned his head. You ever seen a human just rest, no crises, no disasters, just sit? Rarely. Feels unnatural. Like I'm wasting time. You are not. You think I can be fixed. You are not broken. I'm not sure I believe that. I do. They sat in silence again until the stars shifted out of alignment with the dome sensors and the light dimmed. The next day, Vaylen returned to medbay voluntarily. He underwent another scan, accepted the mobility sleeve's restrictions, and even allowed himself to sleep under mild sedation. Khaarn monitored his vitals through the night. When morning came, Vaylen was upright but not moving. He stood by the viewport, still within the medbay, watching the hangar doors cycle open. Feels weird not being out there. You will be eventually. I'm not used to waiting, then learn. I'm trying. Khaarn walked over, holding a final scan summary. The bone is knitting properly now. Nerve response is returning to normal. You will regain full use in several weeks. Vaylen gave a one-shouldered shrug. I can live with that. You will not tamper with the brace again. I won't. You will not reroute diagnostics to hide stress indicators. I didn't think you'd catch that. I always catch that. Vaylen looked at him. You're not like the others. I am a physician. That is sufficient difference. No, I mean, you stuck around. You didn't just patch me up and walk off. You are difficult to ignore. Still, thanks. Khaarn recorded the final entry in the case log that evening. Subject Vaylen Jacker now exhibits improved healing trajectory. Compliance with medical restrictions has increased. Psychological resistance to idleness remains high but manageable. Conclusion: while human resilience often borders on self-destruction, it is tempered by a deep, relentless drive to preserve function not for their own sake, but for others. The trait is not madness, it is survival adapted into habit. He closed the file and exited the terminal. That night, Khaarn passed Vaylen in the corridor. The human gave him a nod, left hand tucked into his jacket, right arm still pinned but steady. "How's the arm?" Khaarn asked. "Still attached. That is a low bar. Sometimes that's enough."